Hello, my friends. I'm Dr. Bree, and today I have a super fun interview that I'm actually very personally excited about. It's all about face yoga and facial exercises for pelvic health. And today I have with me Lydia Sass. So say hi, Lydia, really quickly.
Hi.
Yay! I'm so happy to have you on my YouTube channel to share about this. Lydia does many different forms of yoga, but face yoga is one of them. And I was really intrigued by this when I was following her Instagram, and she has a lot of great, quick little workouts for the face. And, as a woman who's in her 40s, I thought, I want to start looking into this. I'd like to create a little short routine for myself, but I was also really fascinated by the pelvic health connection. And I know Lydia is going to take us through why doing things for our face may be helpful for our pelvic floor. And we're also going to show you some specific exercises. So get ready, everyone. But first, I wanted to just share that when I was in physical therapy school many years ago, I remember my mind being absolutely blown by the concept that our bodies are basically a long tube that starts at the mouth and ends at the anus. It's one long tube. And this tube is surrounded at the top by essentially sphincter muscles around the tube at the top, your mouth, and then the facial muscles that surround that. And then at the bottom, it's surrounded by your anal sphincter and the pelvic floor muscles that surround that. And so I've been fascinated with this for a long time. But I think Lydia is going to help me put some puzzle pieces together that I wasn't even aware of, and also come up with a great little routine that can help me with relaxation, with my pelvic health, and with aging. So, Lydia, with all that being said, I'm personally thrilled to have you on my channel, and I'm also thrilled for my audience to learn from you. So I'm going to zip my lips and kind of let you take the stage right now. So please share with us how you got interested in face yoga specifically, and then you can just share whatever feels good to you about the connection between pelvic health and more.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. I am delighted to be here. And it's so nice when you have these things where you each follow each other and are getting so much from each other's pages, because I follow you on Instagram as well. And I've shared you with so many people and so many clients. And it's always so lovely when you build those connections. And I think we have a kind of a tenuous, well, I certainly have a tenuous relationship with, or maybe even turbulent relationship with social media. And like, how is it affecting me mentally and taking up time and all of this kind of, how's it affecting us globally? But this kind of thing is where it comes into its own, where you can, I live in Ireland, in the mountains in a place called Wicklow outside of Dublin. And you live.
And I live in Oregon, the United States of America in Oregon. I used to live in Germany, but yeah, you're right. These connections are amazing.
We would never have had a chance to chat like this. And, it would have been a really big deal. So now it's so nice to have these kind of friendships where we can all learn from each other. And yeah, I think, so my background a little bit is that my first training, I've been doing yoga since I was literally in my mom's belly. Like, she was quite forward thinking back then, because it wasn't so common to do pregnancy yoga back then. So I was born in 82. So, it was she was quite early on. And she did pregnancy yoga the whole way through. She wanted to have a natural birth, but had a kind of a tough birth in the end. She wasn't really supported through it. And then we went to live in the Himalayas. And my mom, we lived right high up in the mountains, no electricity or running water. And it was beautiful, really, really beautiful, really remote. And it was in a trekking lodge that my dad built. And my mom used to bring, to facilitate yoga groups coming out to do yoga in the beautiful gardens of this lodge. And there was a mountain in the background that in the morning at 6 a.m., the sun would rise behind it and the whole mountain would go pink. Really beautiful sacred mountain in Nepal called Machpachari, which means fishtail, because it kind of looks like a fish's tail at the top. So I have pictures of me joining in with yoga very badly, age about 6, because I would be like a really tight-bodied human. That's, people I think always have this misconception, or maybe actually it's just kind of accurate. A lot of yoga teachers go into yoga because they're like, I'm good at yoga. My body's really bendy, really flexible. For me, it was the opposite. I'm a really tight-bodied person, really tight hamstrings. I would tend towards high tone. And so yoga for me was like necessary. It was the thing that I really needed for my body to be loose and juicy and moving, and the lymphatics and the circulation. So I've got pictures of me doing a really bad downward dog, age sort of 6 or 7, everything. So like, and so I'd done kind of yoga then, and I did it a bit in my teens. But when I did my first teacher training, it was actually in pregnancy yoga. So I started with training in pregnancy yoga, and our pregnancy yoga training was a really in-depth training, and it was kind of almost like doing a first year midwifery. You learned everything, all the contraindications, all the conditions that can happen, really holistic though as well. And there was this big focus on understanding the connection between the pelvic floor and the jaw, and how when you're in labor, you really need to release that jaw in order to release the pelvic floor. Because if you imagine the baby moving down the vaginal canal and they kind of spiral down, when they get to the bottom there, all of those pelvic floor muscles are the kind of crucible. They're holding the gateway of the portal of the baby to come into the world. And if they're really tight and if they're really tense, that makes that delivery much, much harder. And so we really want softness and release there. And when we look to nature, like I would have grown up with a lot of animals around. If you look at sheep when they're giving birth, or cows, they do this thing where they go when they're in labor. And that's them trying to create space and looseness and release in their pelvic floor. So I had already seen that. It made total sense to me. But we also learnt the anatomy of like embryonic development, and how everything kind of, it's such a fascinating thing. And I'm a big nerd, so I'm not going to go too deep into it because I could just talk for ages. But essentially, this is kind of the hinge point at which everything else forms around in the embryo. And so it's really pivotal. It's like the blueprint of our body comes from this jaw, and everything else kind of forms almost like in a spiral around that. And like you said, we've got this one end here with a sphincter, and then this other end down here with a sphincter too. And all of our kind of sphincters in the body, all of those kind of arches, let's say, so in the feet, in the cervix, in the pelvic floor, in the diaphragm, all the diaphragms, and then the roof of the mouth, they all work in this kind of like jellyfish tandemy thing. Right. And I think once you understand that, you understand, okay, everything is interconnected. Right. 1. And 2, then you move on to fascia, which you talked about, because I trained as a Bowen therapist. And in Bowen therapy, we work with fascia. That's what we do. We're working on the fascial trains. And I think for me, there's many ways you could explain fascia. But just to people listening, just kind of fascia is like a strange word. I always think in a really basic way to explain it, I always think of a sausage. And you know how you've got like the muscle would be the meat in the sausage, and the fascia is kind of like the casing of the sausage around it. If it's too tight, there's too much tension, the sausage explodes in the oven. So it's a bit like that. There's this kind of loose casing that carries all the way over our body, and they don't just end. It's not like we have like the fascia of the arm, right, or the fascia of the torso. They come from the feet all the way up through the pelvic floor, all the way up and into the face and into the head.
You know, I have one way to think of fascia that really spoke to me too, just to what you were saying right there about how it doesn't end. It's not segments of the body, but I thought of somebody described it to me once as a body stocking. Like I picture this crazy fishnet, wild body stocking that surrounds your feet and covers you all the way up, down your arms, and even over your head, like some kind of crazy, something you'd get at a costume store or a sex store, you know? And to me, that really spoke to me as to the continuity of the fascia throughout the body. So just thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And I think one of the things that has started to happen, and one of I teach obviously regular yoga as well, but I teach face yoga and face massage and gua sha. And for me, one of the really important things that I've been trying to convey to people is we can't just exercise from here down and forget about all of the muscles and all of the fascia that exist here. Because what we do now is we all kind of pretty much acknowledge, like, we get older, things start to atrophy and sag. We need muscle tone. We need strength and suppleness, all these things for everything to work in a really vital way in our body. And so people go to the gym, or they do yoga, they hike, whatever it is. But then weirdly, we've just kind of gone, and then here we just put some creams and yeah, fine. Yeah. And I'm always telling people, you know, if you have chronic shoulder and neck tension, that is going to be affecting how your face functions, how your brain functions, how your eyes function, all these organs that we have in the face. It's not like this is just only affecting down here. It works both ways. And so if you're working to bring like fluidity into the fascia, because the fascia loves to be juicy, it really wants to be kind of liquidy, it wants to have loads of oils and kind of move, so it really wants to be hydrated. If you're working on that fascia so that you can then work on the muscles and everything can be really nice and the lymphatics can work really well and the circulation can work really well, if you're only working from here down, it's like you're missing the end of, like if you're exercising a muscle and you've only worked one end of that muscle, it's never going to fully work at its optimal. And that's the same with our fascial trains and our muscle and our whole body systems. We can't just work to here and then forget to release tension from our face, because that tension is going to be vibrating down through the fascial trains all the way down to the feet. And that's what I see with my clients all of the time, is once they start working on the face, a lot of other stuff in their body starts to recorrect, because the body's just been crying out, it's just been waiting for someone to go, oh wow, that really needs to happen. Like we really need to release that tension from that place, and we really need to, because our face is also, we have a lot of muscles there. It's changing, you know, I don't even want to quote the number, because they keep, even when I did the training they said 45, then there's some places that say 75, and they're constantly changing on depending on how they define those muscles. But there is a lot of them in the face, and they all again aren't individual muscles, they're systems of muscles that work in connection with each other. And if they aren't working correctly, you might have jaw tension, you might have tension headaches, you might have really bad dry eyes, you might have dry mouth, you might teeth grind, you might clench your teeth, you might have sinus problems, you might have scalp problems. You know, there are so many ways that these muscles need to be working, otherwise they will impact us in terms of symptomatic stuff that just isn't very nice in our day. So it's really important for us to add into our self-care routine or into our exercise routine, whichever way you think of it, movements for the face. And that wants to be tension release stuff, so massage and gua sha, but also strengthening stuff like the face yoga. And there has to be both sides of that, right?
Well, and how similar is this to our pelvic health? We need that release work, we need that strengthening work. And as we've explored up until now, it's all connected anyway. And so absolutely this ties into our pelvic self-care routine for those of us watching who have pelvic health issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm always talking to mums when we're pregnant and going like, notice when you're walking through the day, are you holding tension in your jaw? Because if you are going to be holding tension in the pelvic floor, and vice versa. If you feel that the pelvic floor, if every time you check in and you just take a moment, if it's lifted, you can be pretty sure there's going to be tension here too. Right. And so it's also about that first step is awareness, isn't it? It's coming into it and going, okay, the thing is that most people do know if they teeth grind or they jaw clench. And so sometimes they can't feel that they have pelvic floor tension, but they do know that they grind their teeth down or they have to wear a night guard. And if they have those things, they're going to have those things down there. So sometimes it's kind of an easier way in to come from here actually than here, because it's kind of mystical and like mysterious and we're like, I don't know, don't see it very much. Whereas here we see this. And so what I found from clients is that working on both ends really helps to alleviate common tension patterns that, you know, that really laterally kind of emanate out through the whole of the body. It's not just here and here, because as we said, it's all interconnected. And that's really, really important. And I think about, you know, it's also affecting our intake of nutrients. So if we're looking at it from a beauty perspective, which obviously that comes into play, we want to talk about that too. If we want glowing skin, we need good intake of nutrients. So we want these muscles, all of these functional processes of taking stuff in, digestion in this way, working. But we also need good elimination at the other end. And those are the two ends of those things. And we know that they're connected mentally, because we know we eat food and then we have to poop it out. It's just like sometimes it's hard to connect those things in terms of our exercise protocols. Right. But that's an easy way to think of it. I think it's like our digestion. So if we want our skin to be really glowy, we need to get those nutrients in, we need to chew them up properly, we need to have all the saliva, all the enzymes that are coming from there working properly. We then need to be able to swallow properly. then we need to process it and let go. Because if everything's moving through slow down there, if there's retention, which there usually will be if there's tension, so retention, you're going to have toxin buildup that's sitting in there. And that kind of festery stuff shows up in, usually outbreaks around here. Yeah, exactly. So it's all of this kind of area, and then colon. So right here, right? And so we know those things. But what I do think is really nice is that the face yoga or the face massage, it is attention, you can think of it as your physio, but it's also beautiful. Like, it's also so good feeling. It's not like a chore that you have to add in. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to do my face massage. And then you also get the added benefit of the beauty benefits as well. So I think it's a really easy in for people. It's like easy to commit to that because you see results really quickly in terms of how you look. And even if you just decide, like, I'm going to do it because it makes me look more beautiful, you're still just going to be getting the benefits at the other end too.
It's like, there's so many benefits. And I'm thinking about also the mental health benefit. That's a huge part of my work, is the mental work of pelvic health and the mental work of digestion. As you were just saying, what matters for our beauty and our health in our body is not just the food we eat, but how we digest it, assimilate it, and eliminate it. And all of those things, the digestion, assimilation of the nutrients, and the elimination, you really need to have that calm mindset, that relaxed state of mind in order to really have good digestion. And that relaxed state of mind helps with our pelvic health too. So I just can't even get over how tied together all of this is, because the facial massage and the tools you're going to show us right now are very relaxing. And so it's very much a calming activity. It's not like, let's pump out 15 sets of these. It's very calm and it feels good. And I think the more pleasure we can add into our life, the better for our mental health too. So
totally. And also the other thing is that you're working naturally on vagal nerve tone when you're doing this, which is it's really easy way to bring your vagal nerve toning in, and also to rebalance that kind of nervous system stuff, because you naturally have to slow down and connect in when you're doing it. Every movement is nice and slow. And there's this kind of natural drop down into that calmer state. You start connecting to the breath again. And as you do that, you start to notice, like, how am I feeling today? Am I tired? Do I need to eat more food? Do I need to connect with community? Do I need to journal? Do I need to active rest or rest? And it gives you that opportunity. For me, it's like an easy way to find pause in my day, because sometimes it's hard for us to we know we need to, we even know we want to, but to actually get the pause is really hard. Whereas this, for me, face yoga is like a really easy way to combine loads of different self-care practices. And it's also about, I always think, because I'm also in my 40s, it's like a radical act of bravery now to be a woman in their 40s who hasn't had lots of augmentation done, who doesn't wear loads of makeup, who hasn't, done all the things. And so it can be hard to show up in the world like that. There's a lot of messaging that's coming to us that you aren't enough as you are, that, you're less than in some kind of a way, and that you're in fact just kind of becoming disposable. The older that you get, you just matter less. And I think doing these practices, for me, and what I'd certainly see with my clients, is it allows us to change that relationship with ourselves in the mirror. Because when we look at ourselves in the mirror, typically we do that thing that we already did here, where we were like, what's that bit? I don't like that bit. Or like, oh, my nose is a bit big from that angle. Whatever the things that we have, or we're covering it up with makeup in some kind of a way. Whereas when we're doing this, we're not wearing makeup, number one. So we're seeing ourselves as we are, but we're literally loving on ourselves. And as the days go on, you're looking at yourself and loving on yourself. And it just builds that connection of like, I love you. This is the face that I love. And that is kind of the most powerful part. Like, it gives me chills all down my arms. But I have women who say to me, I have spent my whole life looking in the mirror and hating what I see, feeling like a stranger. And then they do like a couple of months of face yoga or face massage, and they're like, I see myself now. I see the person that I feel inside. I see it there. And yes, there's been transformation, of course, otherwise I wouldn't do what I do. But the transformation is really coming from that internal place. So it talks to what you're saying of like state informed story. right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How we are in our state informs the story that we tell ourselves. So if our state is loving, we are going to love ourselves. It's just that simple.
Well, and then to tie that together, story informs state. So you change your story and all of a sudden your state changes as well, your physical state. So so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Let's get to the moves. I'm so like itching to do this.
If you are watching, what you need to have is a clean face. So maybe cleansed or toned or washed, whatever your routine is, clean hands. And then you want to have something like an oil or a serum handy. So we're going to be doing massage and we want to have an oil or a serum for a glide. So you can go away and get that, pause the video if you don't have it already. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to apply the oil, and we're going to do a little warm up, because just like with any exercise, we need to warm up those muscles and we need to cool them down at the end. The facial muscles are the same, but because they're much smaller, those movements don't look like the movements that we would do in a warm-up routine for a normal exercise. They're much, much smaller. They feel really nice. So let's go ahead. We're going to take our oil or serum and we're going to put about 6 drops into the palm of our hand. If you have really dry skin, you might need more. You'll feel it on you. Once it's in the palm of your hand, you're going to activate it by rubbing. So we always activate our oils or our serums. It makes them more viscous, but they absorb into the skin a little bit better. And if there are any essential oils in there, it's going to activate them as well, which is really nice. So then we apply it by patting. So we're going to press onto there. Just press and hold. Take a deep inhale and exhale. And then we're going to press and hold on the cheeks.
So I was already doing this wrong. I would have rubbed my face. This is so interesting.
Yeah, because if you rub it when you're applying it, you're actually putting loads of it into your hand and kind of wasting it. It's not like more complicated than that. It's just... So then we're going to make a little steeple. So I always make the steeple because a lot of people use facial stuff which has oils in it. It's really nice to breathe those oils in and take that moment for them to just settle. So you make the steeple and we're just going to take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. I'm going to do that 2 more times. And while we're here, you might just set an intention for your practice today. So it might be, I want to love on myself. It might be, I want to calm down. It might be, I want to stay present. Whatever makes sense for you right now. And then we're going to take the hands away. We're going to press under the jaw. And then we're going to come down the front. And this is really good for vagal nerve tone as well. So it's nice and light. And just feel the sensation. Feel the touch. So connect into that sense. How does it feel? How's your body responding? And we'll come down the side. So flat to the hands, down the sides of the neck. And what's really important to know is that when we work on the jaw, we can't just work on the jaw. We need to work below and above. Just the same as with our rest of our pelvic floor exercise. We don't only work on them. We need to release the glutes also, and leg muscles, and we need to look at the belly, fascial train, all of that kind of stuff, low back. And then we're going to come down onto the décolletage. So the chest area, you can just kind of pat it along here.
Shouldn't have worn it.
Yeah, beautiful. I know, I'm never meant to wear earrings, but I just love it.
Take off your jewelry, everyone.
And then when you get to the end, if you've got any oil left, I usually have a bit left in the palm of my hand, take the ring finger and you're going to put that into the oil, and then you're going to tap it along that eye area and up into the dry area of the eye there. So it's just along here and up into, so we use this ring finger. It has the least nerve endings, so it's the lightest touch. And because the eye area is so delicate, using that finger means that we don't kind of press and prod it. And this area here tends to get really dry, so it's just useful. If you have really dry skin, just apply a little bit more oil and just get used to applying it in this area every day. It'll just help, because you know sometimes you put concealer on and it all clumps in that area when the dryness happens. Okay, so we have our oil applied, and then we're going to do our little warm up. So we just get waterful fingers and we're just coming across the whole of the forehead. We have the frontalis muscle here, so we're just covering it. And some people find this movement really hard to do, I've discovered. And if you do, you can do a patting like this with your fingers. So you can choose whichever one feels good for you. It just depends how your fingers work, and it's not one way that's right or wrong. And then we're going to come down and we're going to cover the whole of the cheek. So you can come close to the mouth in the beginning. So you've got kind of ocularis muscles here that are going to go around the mouth itself. And then you come up here. Main body here, we've got the platysma, and that one runs all the way down under the chin and down to the neck, and then we come back here, and we've got kind of masseter muscles right at the back. And then we're going to come under. So you can use the flat of your hand, but I find that really hard to do. So I always use the back of my hand when we're coming along here.
Oh, yeah, that is hard to do.
It's really hard. Some people can just do it, though. I can't. And then we're going to do those, or the little waterfall fingers, whichever one feels nice, all the way down the neck. Just cover the sides of the neck as well. And then all the way along the chest here.
This is lovely. I hope people are joining us. This is fantastic.
I know.
Oh,
it feels so good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're looking at the jaw, like I said, we want to make sure that we cover this area. We also cover back into this area behind the ear, all those kind of accessory muscles and accessory fascial trains. So we'll try to cover as many of them as we can today. So the first thing that we're going to do is just look at under here, which feeds into here, is a major lymphatic drainage point. And because we all do this, looking at our phones all day long and our computers, this can get really kind of bound up and blocked up. So it's really important to get used to releasing the tension from that area and then activating the lymphatic pumps. Otherwise, you can get what appears to be a double chin, but it's actually just edema, swelling, puffiness in this area. So if you take your knuckles like this, see how I've got my thumb sticking up here, and then I've got my neck as it meets my jaw. I'm going into kind of the soft underbelly of the chin, and I'm just stroking. So it's 6 to 8 long, smooth, gentle strokes. And this is just releasing the tension from this area, because that's where we're going to hold it when we're looking down. And always checking back in with the breath and dropping the shoulders. And then once we've done those 6 to 8, we're then going to do the same movement, but we're going to pump up. So see how my thumbs are doing this? We're just activating the lymphatic pump by pressing into that area. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we're going to take our knuckles. They're going to go either side of the jaw. And we're going to come all the way out and up as high as you can. And then we're going to go down the sternocleidomastoid, all the way down there. So we're coming out to the ear, up, then turn your hands and come down there. And this also another one of those exercises for the vagal nerve tone. Really good if you're someone who tends to have kind of sore throats a lot, or you have blocked ears or sinusy stuff. Doing this move will really, really help that congestion. Again, using sort of 6 to 8 of everything. If you can't remember, 6 to 8 is kind of a good number to stick with.
I feel really uncoordinated with that. So it's, again, it's just up.
Just up. So I'll show you on the one side. Yeah. It's up here. I come right up towards the ear, and then I'm just turning to come down here.
Oh, and you're even kind of separating your fingers a little bit.
They have to come a little bit further apart to come. And that's also going to depend on the width of your sternocleidomastoid. I think I use my neck a lot, and so mine is kind of bigger than it might be otherwise.
Feels a lot different, though, to have it separated like that than to have your fingers together. So if anyone was like me and had their fingers together, it feels really nice to open them up a little. Wow.
It's like when we were doing our training in the bone therapy. This is a move that we do for TMJ, and they teach it to you like you're milking a cow. So you're literally milking that space. So you need to have it either side, otherwise you'll just be going up and down.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we're going to take the pointy bits of the knuckles, and we're going to come under into that soft bit, and we're just going to go along the jawline to the ear. So again, we're just releasing the tension here. A bit like you're kneading dough. It's much easier to do if you're not talking as well. So I'm trying
to be your side view model here.
Thank you so much. And so once you've done that, like maybe 30 seconds, you can then take those knuckles down that same area, but you're using the whole knuckle now. And it's not too strong. You don't have to press hard. And sometimes you'll find the urge to swallow or to yawn at this point. And that's really normal. That means that the lymphatic drainage is starting to work, or the vagal nerve tone is starting to come in. And then from here, we're going to take here the collarbone. There's the soft bit above the collarbone. I'm going to take all my fingers. I'm just going to pump in 6 times to activate the lymphatic pump from here. So we've drained down there. Now we want it to move out and away towards the armpits. So Now we're going to move up. So that's kind of preparatory, I suppose. It's like we've loosened everything. We've started it moving and flowing again. Now what we want to do is really work into the massa to here. And so when we work into the massa to muscle here, we want to lengthen it and we want to soften it, because just like you said, we hold tension in both places. And that tension can be like functional tension, structural stuff, but it can also be emotional tension. It can be trauma, stored emotions, health stuff, where, anytime we're bracing, and there's been a lot of bracing over the last few years, this comes in here. So lengthening and softening is really important. So we do this technique, and I always think of it like, it's not great, but spider fingers. So you've got these kind of fingers that are moving like this, and they're kind of coming apart here. So I'm just kind of pulling them. Each one is kind of pulling apart from the finger above it. Yeah, you got it. So if you start just kind of forwards at the ear, and then we can start to come up above the cheekbone to the temple. I'm just doing that same movement. And then we can come back down again. And then we can start to make them a little bit longer. So we're pulling apart a little bit more. And we're just lengthening out, because anytime there's tension in a muscle, there's contraction. So there's a drawing together. And what we want is that soft openness in the muscle. So that's what we're doing here, is length and softness. And we make sure that we go to the other side as well. So we've got these little fingers. They're just starting off like this. It's like each one in turn is pulling away from each other, and you're just starting to
kind of alternating then, kind of like up, down, even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Like you're playing the piano or something. And then we kind of come up, and we make sure that we do it on the temple too. And then we can come back to the starting position, and then we're just kind of smoothing and lengthening. And it's nice and long and soft. And then release and come back. And then we're going to take pinching fingers along the cheekbones. So it's a nice way to release tension, is to pinch. And it's not like a pokey sore pinch. It's just like a little gentle pinch. And you could go 6 to 8 times again. And then we're going to do the same thing along the jaw. So we've done above and below.
So if you only had like 1 minute maybe to do maybe 2 of these warm-up exercises, which one would you recommend? Or which two?
I would definitely do the knuckles one. I would just do the knuckles along here and down here. You can do this one at any time during the day, because it's one that you could do in the car, you could do it watching TV. This one kind of more does require the oil. So this one I think is a really, really good one to do. And then the fingers one. That'll cover 2 major areas of lengthening and releasing. That's kind of what I would say if you're doing that. So we've done a pinching along here, all the way along. And then what we're going to do is take the thumbs, and I'm going to slide them down, following on to the cheek here. So they're just carving out under the cheekbone and then up and along. So I'm just letting them come all
kind of
the way
going
up.
down those mouth wrinkles up.
Yeah. Up. So I'm just following the cheekbone. It's easier if you have the hands like this. Natural, long, smooth glides. Again, 6 to 8. And then when you get to the end this time, stop your thumb when it gets to the corner where the cheekbone meets the jaw. So you get that apex point here, that little V. I'm going to stop the thumb and then turn the hands around, and I'm going to hook those thumbs in there. And it's almost like I'm hanging the bones of my cheek off the thumbs. So I'm letting the skull rest. And that can be really quite tender. If you have tension or your jaw grinding or teeth grinding, this can be sore. And that's just showing you that you need to work into that muscle a little bit more. So you get to control. Like I'm able to put the whole weight of my skull is on my thumbs now. Like it's heavy, like I'm letting it hang there. But you might start off with just a little bit.
Yeah. My friends, I need help here. I'm feeling very tender.
And then try to just do it with your mouth hanging open, like it goes into a slightly different place. Here, just letting it be there. And then release. And then there's an acupressure point just here. So here's the jaw, and I've just dipped where the ear comes down into the soft bit, and it's often really tender. And you're going to massage in there. And as you're doing it, just keep your mouth really relaxed again.
Right there.
So I'm just, here's my jaw, and I've just come off the jaw, and you'll find it because it'll be tender.
Right
it'll be just there. And you're just massaging around clockwise circles for about 30 seconds.
Ooh, very tender.
Yeah, it's really tender, right? And this is also going to help with that lymphatic drainage. So if you're someone who suffers from middle ear infections, or your kids do, this is a really good one to do for that. And then we're going to take it into V fingers. So see my feet? They're just going to come up either side of the ear. So there's one in front of the ear, one behind, and we're just kind of loosening off that whole area here. So really just let it be really as loose as you can. And you want it to come right up into the skull there. So you're using the fingers all the way up into the skull, either side there. So you're really just in front and behind, letting go.
Are you kind of moving the skin on your skull?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is move that whole skull fascia and muscles around like this. Now, scalp massage is another whole thing. Very, very important. I would do it every day. But with this, you can see how my whole ear is moving. I'm just and you can kind of claw them in and just work it around. There's no wrong way, but it's very good release and drainage, especially for the ears as well. And then we're going to take our hands, the heels of the hands, and we're just going to smooth up and out. So nice long strokes here, just keeping the mouth relaxed as you're doing it. And then you can take them up right to this point here, and you're just going to turn them around. You're just kind of using the heels to dig into that tender spot there. But because it's not so pointy, we can kind of use the heels a little bit there to release out. And you can even then come to take the knuckles into that bit, and you're just giving it a good old massage. So nice little circles there. And you want to keep the rest of the mouth as relaxed as possible. So if I stop talking for a second, you can see how the whole mouth skin is moving. So let it just get real smushy. Okay. One of the things about my job is you do a lot of unpretty recordings.
Yeah.
That's not possible. And then, so that's the kind of lymphatic massage, tension release. Then I want to show you just 2 face yoga poses that you could do where you don't have to have the oil, and you can do them at any point in the day. So for these ones, you're just going to take your chin into your hands like this, and you're going to open your mouth to about halfway, and then you're going to push your chin into the resistance of your palm, and your palm into the resistance of your chin. So it's going to look like this. And you're going to pause for 5 seconds, connecting 2, 3, 4, and release. And we're going to do that 3 times. So opening into the resistance, hold, and again, one more time. And release. And you could do that like 3 to 4 times during the day, just to help to release the tension and just to get some stretch and space into that joint, into that hinge joint. And then the other thing that you can do, which I tell people who have chronic jaw tension, during the day, this one, no one even has to know that you're doing it. So it's something that you could do like hundreds of times during the day, is you just take the tongue to the back of the top teeth. So I can't really show you, like I'm just pressing the tongue there. And I'm just going to press and hold and let it go.
To clarify, are you pressing into the teeth or up toward the root?
So my teeth are here, my tongue is just pushing, and I'm holding for 5 and then releasing. Exactly. Like, yeah. Huh? Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
But like if you were doing it in the day, you don't have to go like, it can be just a subtle and release. So I get people when they're at their desks, just to, whenever they think of it, release.
Okay.
And that you can feel that all the way under here is engaging and then releasing. And what happens with muscles is that oftentimes if we take them into their point of tension, they release a lot better from the point of tension. So like with the shoulders, we hike them first, then let them go. It's much easier for them to drop down than if we try to drop them from here already, because you kind of go to the familiar and then you go, oh, this is okay. And then we can let go from there. So that's what we're accessing in that. The other thing that I would say that's really important that I do a lot of with my clients is internal buccal mouth massage. And so for that one, if you are at home, you can just go wash your hands quickly so you don't have the oil on them. But all you're going to do is take your thumb to the inside. It's that point, that tender point that we got to. We're going to bring it along there. And then I'm pushing it from the inside, and I'm going to use these fingers, like the slider fingers, to just release out that tension inside and outside. So I'm pressing them against each other, inside and outside, and just massaging along, letting it go. And that is really, really, really effective. So you can just do this anytime you think of it. Just stick the thumb in there, find the connection point, and you can also then turn it into big, long, smooth strokes. You can see there. Again, it's always easier if you have a little bit of oil on your face.
Okay.
You can see, you can really feel it. So if you're at home, please do both sides. But just really, really, you can start to feel, also get that tactile sense of the muscle. Sometimes you have little nodules on it even, and little cysts, little things. And, you know, as we move them, like you always say, motion is lotion. You're bringing that, in yoga, we call it ojas, the juices. We're starting to make stuff flow again, because as with everything, stagnation is the enemy. So we want stuff to be moving really fluidly. So you're just getting in there and you're just massaging it out, and don't get too caught up in your head about it. There is like a way that I teach, but ultimately, if you've got that muscle from the inside and your fingers on the outside, you're just softening it out.
Yeah, it sounds like there's really no wrong. I mean, I'm sure there are wrong ways to do it, but just to let people not be so scared, like, am I going to do this wrong? It's like, if your motion is lotion, if you're massaging and relaxing these muscles, you're in a good place.
Absolutely. And I think also it's a lot to do with intention, isn't it? You know, what's really important, I think, and the only real thing that you can do wrong is to come at it like a chore and go way too fast through stuff.
Right.
So sometimes people are like, I want to get all of it done. I'm going to do like 40 minutes, but I'm going to try and condense that into 10. So then they're kind of, you know, so much better to do one or two, like 1 to 2 minutes a day. And you can just cycle through these ones, right? You have the recording, you can come choose, okay, I'm going to do 2 of the moves once you know them, and you just do 2. And then the next day you do another 2. They don't have to all be done in one big sequence. It's really about finding the pause in your day. Maybe 5 times in the day you stop and do something, one thing, and maybe you only remember 3 of them, but you just do those a couple of times a day.
Like that one. So you could do, like you said, a little mini warm up, one move here, and then this, and you're good. You're good for a starter for a day. If you have 1 minute, you could do both of those things. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's using your knuckles is really good. Our knuckles are so good for releasing tension. And there is the gua sha stone. I love it. I find it very, very useful for this area particularly. But there is a different thing that you get from using your knuckles. You get a release too, but you've got that feeling of your own hands, you know. And so a nice warm down that I always do is to take the hook knuckle like this and just glide along the cheekbone all the way up to the hairline here, just smoothing.
And it's a very gentle touch so that we don't stress our skin, correct? Okay.
It's light.
We don't want to create wrinkles.
No. And so you do it on the other side. I'm using these fingers as an anchor, because if I anchor the skin here, I'm not pulling it. I'm gliding across it then. So that's the point of the anchor finger. Lovely.
Oh, so good.
And then you can just take those 2 knuckles underneath, like you're carving out again. And these are going to be really sculpting as well. They're really going to help the architecture of your face have that kind of structural integrity, which is really what you want as you age. It means things don't migrate. They just stay where you want them. Sorry, and then just come down to this one again. So I usually, when I'm warming down, if I've done anything, if you're just doing 2 things, it's fine. But if you're doing a longer session like we've done today, just this one, and this one. Very simple. And I do that morning and evening every time I apply my oil. I do those three things, just to keep the cheekbone nice and defined there and the jawline nice and defined.
Yeah. And you have amazing cheekbones and jawline, I have to say. They're lovely. I want to just say quickly that I love the idea of using a tool like the gua sha tool, but also, like you said, using your fingers, your own hands. First of all, it's free. You have it with you at all times. And also, it's such a lovely way to connect with yourself, kind of like with vaginal self massage or perineal release, or using, any type of massage or release work of your pelvic floor that you can do yourself with your hands, And yes, of course, you can use a pelvic wand or a dilator or a tool, but you can also use what you have for free. And it really helps with that connection to your own body. And so I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah. And I think it's, the healing power of touch just cannot be underestimated. And I think self-touch, especially because we outsource so much of our health to other people. We think like we have to go to the doctor or we have to go to the specialist. And those people are guides, really. But ultimately, we have that innate healing wisdom. And we are the ones that know how our body needs to be touched, where it needs to be loved on, how it needs to be massaged. And if we don't use it, we lose it, right? So we need to be connecting in with ourselves every single day to feel like, how do I like to be touched? And it doesn't have to be sexual. It's like touch, we've kind of made this bizarre polarity where touch has just become, self-touch suddenly sounds like you're talking about masturbation, which is also lovely and good.
Yeah.
But self-touch can be massage that's just, or like vagal nerve stuff, or just checking in with your body. And that's another way that we can reparent ourselves and work on our nervous system regulation during the day. And I think as kids, like, we're always hugging our kids and squeezing on our kids and loving on them. And we know that we love that and it feels so good for both of us. Why shouldn't we do it to ourselves as an adult?
Oh my gosh, what a juicy and beautiful way to end this conversation, because I know we've reached our time, but thank you so much, Lydia, for sharing this massage and simple face yoga that we can do to help for our facial health, for our beautification, but also our pelvic health too. Like, this I think has been one of my most favorite interviews ever, because it just brings everything together in such a beautiful way, from the way the whole body is connected to the mental, the emotional, mental heart component of the whole thing, to self-love. I mean, my goodness, it's like we hit upon it all. And the lymph, I mean, everything. So thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want more from you?
Yeah, so I am pretty good on Instagram. I'm pretty active on it. So I have Yoga with Lydia, and that's my regular yoga stuff. But then I also have a kind of niche page, which is Face Yoga with Lydia, and it's Lydia. But if you type in that, you're going to find, if you just even remember Lydia, you'll find it somewhere. And all of my details, so my email and all of that kind of stuff, is all contained with my Instagram. So it's kind of a good way to find me. If you're someone who doesn't have Instagram, I also have faceyoga@gmail.com. So you can always email that way.
Wonderful. Okay. And I will put the details in the show description, the notes below this. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you followed along and I hope you feel as amazing as I do. Yay. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.